Welcome to this course, Law and Society in Taiwan, and today we will talk about the government structure in Taiwan. We always start with the most important law that describes the government structure, and that is the Constitution of the Republic of China in Taiwan. And Article 1 of the Constitution says, "The Republic of China, founded on the three principles of the people, shall be a democratic republic." So here we have the two key words, democratic republic. What does democratic mean? Democracy, this is actually a Greek word, and demo means the people, and krasi means power. So the word democracy means the power comes from the people. So democracy is a form of government where all the power comes from the people. And the other important word is republic. So what is a republic? A republic is a government that is elected by representatives, by the people, and it's governed by a president, so not a king or a queen. If it's governed by a king or queen, it would be a monarchy, but Taiwan here is a republic that is governed by a president. And then if we continue to read Article 1, it says, it is a democratic republic of the people, to be governed by the people and for the people. So here we have the three famous principles of nationalism, of democracy, and social well-being. So Taiwan is a sovereign nation that is where the power comes from the people, and the government here is to serve the people. So I think this is a very important message, that the government is not here to strengthen its own power, but it's here to serve the people. So here is a test question that should be very easy now for you to answer. What form of government does Taiwan have? And the answer is And the second question, what is a republic? Okay, now let's talk about the central government. The central government is composed of the office of the president, and we have the five branches of the central government, namely the legislative, yuan, the executive, judicial, examination, and control, yuan. So we have a separation of powers among five branches. And here we can ask, the question, why do you think is the governmental power divided into 5 branches? So I always want to make you think. Do you have an explanation? Why don't we give all the powers just to the president, for example? So why do we divide it into the 5 branches? And the answer is to prevent an abuse of power. So if we give all the powers just to one president or one party, it would be overwhelming power, and then it could easily be abused. So this is the thought of separation of powers to have a mutual check and balances. So the legislative yuan, obviously, they make the laws, they pass the laws. The executive yuan, they execute the laws, they implement the laws. And when there is a dispute in the implementation of the law, then we go to the judiciary. And this is very special in Taiwan, that we have 2 more branches, namely the examination and control yuan. So examination, what kind of examination are we talking about? Well, this is the exam for the government officials. So if you want to become a government official, you have to take an exam, and this exam is administered by the examination yuan. And control yuan. So what does the control yuan control? The answer is they control the executive, the public officers. And we'll talk more about that next time. So now you should understand that the central government in Taiwan is divided into how many branches? And the function of each branch. And now I have another question for you. What if there is a dispute between the 5 yuans? Who can resolve the dispute? Is it, because this question is a little bit more difficult, so I'm going to suggest some answers, and you're going to tell me what is the best answer. So the first answer, A, the people and citizens living in Taiwan? Or is it B, the prosecutor together with the jury? Or is it C, the premier in cooperation with the legislators? Or is the answer D, the president in consultation with the presidents of the relevant yuan? Well, the best answer is not A, so it's not the people, not B, the prosecutor. Prosecutor is the plaintiff in a criminal proceeding, and the jury, this is a kind of lay judge, so they don't decide the question. What is the premier? In answer C, the premier is the leader of the executive yuan, and the legislators make the law, but the best answer here is D. So it's the president in consultation with the presidents of the relevant yuan. And as lawyers, it's always important to give a legal basis. So we don't not only want to know the answer, but also where is the law? Where does the law tell us the answer? And we can find the answer in the Constitution in Article 44, where it says, in case of disputes between 2 or more yuan, other than those concerning which there are relevant provisions in this constitution, the president may call a meeting of the presidents of the yuan concerned for consultation with a view to reaching a solution. So there we have the answer. It's the president who can call a meeting together with the presidents of the yuan. So now let's talk more about the president. Obviously, the president is the leader, is the head of the state. As the Constitution says in Chapter 4, Article 35, the president shall be the head of the state and represent the Republic of China in foreign relations. The president also has the supreme command of the land, sea and air forces. So he's also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and according to Article 38 of the Constitution, concludes the treaties and also declares war and make peace. So here we have the leadership function of the president. So with this knowledge, you can now answer the test question: who is the head of the government? Is it A, the most senior Grand Justice, or B, the leader of the majority party, or C, the premier, or D, the president? Well, the Grand Justice, they interpret the Constitution, so they are the leaders of the judiciary. The answer B refers to the leader of the majority party. So the majority party in Taiwan right now is the Democratic Progressive Party, the DPP, and the leader of the DPP right now also is the president. But it doesn't always have to be like this, right? So the best answer here actually is D, so it's the president. Yeah? But right now the president is also the leader of the majority party. What are other powers of the president? The president also promulgates the law. This is a very important function. So the legislative, they pass the law, but then in the end, the law has to be published. Why is this so important? Well, the law must be known by the people. Then people need to know the law, then they can comply with the law, right? So it would be very unfair if the laws are not published, then the citizens have no chance of knowing the law. So this is a very important function of the president here, to promulgate, to publish the laws. Article 37 also requires that the certain mandates in principle must be countersigned by the president of the executive yuan. But here you should know that there are some exceptions where the countersignature of the president of the executive yuan is not required. And why am I telling you? Because this was actually tested on the national exam, and this was a test question when the countersignature of the executive yuan president is not required. Yeah, and you find the answer in the additional articles of the Constitution in Article 2, where it says the presidential orders to appoint or remove the executive yuan president does not require the countersignature of the executive yuan president. Obviously, this makes sense because the executive yuan president, when he is being removed, he's not going to sign his own removal, right? So this makes sense. And then the other exceptions are when the president appoints personnel with the confirmation of the legislative yuan. So when the president wants to appoint a very important function, then often they need the confirmation of the legislative yuan, and here we already have the confirmation of the legislative yuan. So it's then it also makes sense that we don't need an extra countersignature of the executive yuan president. And the third exception is when the president dissolves the legislative yuan. This also does not require the countersignature of the executive yuan president. Article 39 says that the president also has the power to declare martial law with the approval of the legislative yuan. So martial law, what does this mean? Martial law is a special law that applies during a war when the ordinary law does not apply and when it's the military authorities who control. So then we have the martial law. And also a special kind of law is enshrined in Article 43, which says in times of epidemic or crisis, the president can issue emergency decrees. But these emergency decrees then have to be presented to the legislative yuan, and then the legislative yuan can either confirm or not confirm the emergency decrees. So this part shows us that the president here plays an important role also with regard to the promulgation of the laws and some special laws in times of crisis. On the positive side, the President, according to Article 40 of the Constitution, has the power to grant amnesties, to pardon criminals, and according to Article 41, also to appoint and remove civil or military officials. Some of the top positions are appointed by the President, but here we often need the confirmation of the Legislative Yuan. And now you might ask why. So the Legislative Yuan represents the people. So the legislators are directly elected by the people. So the confirmation of the Legislative Yuan also is a kind of democratic legitimization. Yeah? So the power does not belong exclusively to the President, but we also need the confirmation of the Legislative Yuan. And according to Article 42, the President can confer honors and decorations. And we had a tour through the presidential office, and there we could see the honors and decorations that can be bestowed by the President. So here now comes the test question. What powers does the President have? And now the next question. The following statements describing the relationship between the President and the Legislative, are they true or false? First statement. The President has the right to veto a law. Is this true or false? The next statement. The President shall promulgate the laws. The President has the power to dissolve the Legislative Yuan. The President may declare martial law with the approval of the Legislative Yuan. The Legislative Yuan may request the President to terminate martial law. And finally, presidential emergency decrees shall be presented to the Legislative Yuan. Be able to answer these questions, and all of these statements are true with the exception of the first statement. So the President does not have the right to veto a law. And this is special because this is different from the United States. So the President of the United States has the power to veto a law, but this is not the case in Taiwan. So knowing now the powers of the President, do you want to become a President? So who can become a President? The answer is in the Constitution. Article 45 says any citizen of the Republic of China, so here we need the citizenship, who has attained the age of 40, so a certain age, you have to be at least 40 years old, may be elected President or Vice President. So it's by way of election, direct election by the people. And this is enshrined in Article 2 of the additional articles of the Constitution, where it says the President shall be directly elected by the people, and this is effective since 1996. For how long does the President serve? In the Constitution, in the original Constitution, Article 47, it says a term of 6 years. But we know that this has been revised, and according to Article 2 of the additional articles, it's now 4 years. So the President has a term of 4 years, but can be re-elected for a second term, which means a maximum term of 8 years in total. So the test question now for you: who can become president? And what is the maximum term of a president? So this is the first part regarding the central government. But you know that in Taiwan we also have the local government. So this means we have a division of powers between the central and the local governments. And this division of powers is enshrined in the Constitution. In Article 107, it says when the central government has power, the power of legislation and administration. So for example, foreign affairs, national defense, postal service, all these issues are legislated and administered by the central government. Article 108 then specifies the issues when the central government has the power of legislation and administration, but here the central government may delegate the administration to the local governments, namely the province and the xian. So an example would be education, the educational system, and public health. Article 109 then continues to say that when the province has the power of legislation and administration, and when the province may delegate the administration to the xian. And then finally, Article 110 says when the xian has power of legislation and administration. Here a perfect example is public health. So public health can fall under the power, is a power of the central government, but can also be a power of the province and of the xian. And we're going to talk about a case with regard to public health in a few minutes. And what do we do now if a matter is not enumerated in these articles 107, 108, 109, and 110? Then who has the power? If the Constitution does not expressly tell us, it depends on the nature. Also, if this issue is national in nature, then it belongs to the central government. If it affects only one province, then it is a power of the province. And if it only affects the county or the xian, then it belongs to the county or the xian. And if there is a dispute, then it shall be settled by the legislative yuan, according to Article 111 of the Constitution. So this is the distribution of powers between the central and local government according to the Constitution. But we know that the Constitution of the Republic of China was drafted many years ago, right? So what does the situation look like now? So today, the local self-government is composed of 6 special municipalities, namely Taipei, New Taipei, Taoyuan, Taichung, Tainan, and Kaohsiung. These special municipalities have a leading status for the regional development, and they also have more funding and more agencies. So these special municipalities play a leading role. And then we have also 13 counties, namely Hsinchu, Miaoli, Changhua, Nanzhou, Yunlin, Jiayi, Pingzhong, Yilan, Hualien, Taidong, Penghu, Jinmen, and Lianjiang. So these counties also have their own self-government. And then finally we have 3 autonomous municipalities or cities, namely Keelung, Hsinchu, and Jiayi. So these local self-governments, why are they called self-government? Because they have their own legislative council who has the power to make rules and regulations. These rules and regulations are also binding, but however they must not conflict with the law that is passed by the central government. So they have their own legislative council, and they also have their own administrative government. And this can be the mayor of a city, or the magistrate of a county government. So you now understand what does local self-government mean. It means that certain authorities, they also have their own legislative and administrative authorities. So now let's talk about a real case to illustrate what all this means, especially the division of powers between the central government and the local government. Let's take the case of COVID. You know, we have the COVID pandemic also in Taiwan, and here we apply the law. The applicable law here is called Communicable Disease Control Act. And according to this law, Article 2, it says the competent authorities are the Ministry of Wealth and Welfare at the central level, the municipality governments at the municipality level, and the county or city government at the county or city level. So here you see we have different levels of government, but they all have powers with regard to public health. And Article 5 of the Communicable Disease Control Act says that the central government authority shall formulate the policies and the plans for the prevention and control of communicable diseases, whereas the local government authorities, they shall develop the implementation plans and implement the plans according to the policies and plans formulated by the central competent authority, and locality-specific disease control practices, and report to the central competent authority for reference. So, very specifically, the Ministry of Health and Welfare is the central competent authority. They formulate the policies. For example, last year when the pandemic broke out also in Taiwan, the central government issued a level 2 alert. What was the reaction of the local government? So the local government, for example, in Taipei, the mayor of Taipei and the mayor of New Taipei City, they are dominated not by a different party. So the central government is dominated by the DPP, and the local governments in these two cases, the KMT or other opposition parties, they had a different opinion. So they were calling for a quasi level 3 level. So they were demanding a higher alert level. So here we already see that there was some kind of conflict between the central government and the local government. And then when the situation eased, the central government relaxed the measures and then said, okay, now under certain circumstances, we again allow the indoor dining. So this is what the central government said. But again, the local governments were hesitant to follow these rules, and Taipei and New Taipei, for example, continued to ban indoor dining for some time. So this is just a story, a real story that shows that there can be a conflict sometimes between the central government and the local governments. So in conclusion, what you should remember, the Republic of China on Taiwan is a democratic republic, and it has a unique government structure. The central government consists of the president and the 5 branches, but some powers are allocated to the local governments with the right of self-governance. And there can be conflicts between the central and local governments, as well as different parties. And so this must be overcome in the interest of the entire nation. finding such an internal consensus within a very diverse society while representing a young democracy externally is a challenging task that the president has to master. Each one of us is invited to share and to contribute. So this concludes our lesson today about the government structure in Taiwan. And next time we will talk about these branches in more detail. So next week we will visit the Legislative Yuan, and see you next time.
Last but not least, I want to invite you to take a tour through the presidential office building. The building is open Monday to Friday mornings, and it's free, so everyone is welcome to take a look. There is a special exhibition inside the building, and the topic is in English, Power to the People. And the Chinese topic is Fu, which means government, and also it means home. What this exhibition wants to express or emphasize is that the government is here to serve the people, and all the power comes from the people. And while you take the tour, you are also invited to imagine what kind of Taiwan do you see. Taiwan is a part of the world, and what role do you see for Taiwan, and what kind of relations between Taiwan and the world? So I took this tour and would like to share my experience with you. When you enter the building, you first learn about the history. And this building is very special. It was designed and constructed during the Japanese period from 1912 to 1919. And it also used to be the office of the Governor General of Taiwan during the Japanese colonial period. After the Second World War, we know that Chiang Kai shek moved from mainland China to Taiwan and became the first president in Taiwan. However, during the Second World War, the building had been damaged, and now they started to repair and renovate the building in honor of the 60th birthday of President Chiang Kai shek. And starting 1950, this building then was used as a presidential office, and ever since has been the seat of the government, the seat of political power. In 1998, the building and also the surroundings were declared a National Historic Site by the Ministry of Interior. However, it was not until 2006 that this building officially was named the presidential office, because up until 2006, this building had been called after Chiang Kai-shek. So the Chinese name was Jie Shou Guan, which literally means long live Chiang Kai-shek. And a few years ago, in 2019, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the presidential office building. You can take a look at this video, which is available on the homepage of the presidential office and also on YouTube. And it's very short, but it really gives an overview of the evolution, the development of this building, and is quite impressive. So I invite you to take a look at this video. Here you see the map of the presidential building. So inside we have two courtyards, one to the north and one to the south. And if you look from the top down, it has the form of a rose. And this building was constructed to make it very, very stable, even when there is an earthquake. And this is what the courtyard looks like from the inside. We have two, as I just mentioned. And here you see the front view of the office of the presidential office. So here you see the car with the president will arrive here, and then the door will close, and then the president can get out of the car. Here you see a timeline and all the presidents that served in Taiwan, starting with Chiang Kai-shek, who was followed by President Yen, who only served 3 years, a very short period, and then was followed by Jiang Jingguo, the son of Chiang Kai-shek. And then Li Zhenghui, very famous because under him he was the first president to be democratically and directly elected by the people in 1996. And then followed by Chen Shui-bian and then Ma Ying-jeou. And our current president is a woman, Tsai Ing-wen. A part of the exhibition shows the daily life at the office of the president. And here you see a desk or table that was really used by President Tsai. However, it was somehow too big for her, and therefore she got a new one. And this old desk and the chair are now part of the exhibition. A part of the president's tasks is to give the decorations, to confer the decorations and honors on civil and military officials. The highest honor one can get is called the Order of Brilliant Jade with Grand Cordon. So the word cordon means ribbon, and attached to this ribbon are then these honors and decorations. And here you see an example. This is a white sun against a blue sky, which is also the national emblem of the Republic of China. And this kind of decoration expresses profound respect for the head of a state and the hope to have cordial, friendly relations with diplomatic allies. Another part of the exhibition is called Sound, here the voice of the people. In fact, the presidential office building has been a witness to the historical changes in Taiwan because whenever the people have a wish or want to demonstrate for something, they gather in front of the presidential office building so that the president can hear what the people want. And seen from this perspective, the presidential office building really has been a witness to the history in Taiwan. One example, very important event happened in 1990, and it was called the Wild Lily Student Movement. So what happened here was the students gathered here at the what is today called the Liberty Place in demand for more democracy. For example, they were demanding that the president should be directly elected in a democratic way by the people. And at that time, President Li Denghui welcomed the students. He invited them to his office and heard their wishes, and indeed in 1996, then the first democratic and direct elections took place for the president. So the people, in particular, also the young people, the students, have been a true source of a nation's power. And the Taiwanese society, the Taiwanese people, can be described as adaptable and resilient, tolerant and inclusive, and fighting for democracy and freedom. Another part of the exhibition is called Island of Thousand Sounds. What this refers to is the fact that Taiwan is home to diverse ethnic groups. And Taiwan can be described as inclusive and multicultural. This is also reflected in the nature. So the ecosystem and the biodiversity of Taiwan are extremely rich. We have many different species in terms of plants, fauna, and flora. Also the animals, all kinds of birds and butterflies. And also, an interesting fact to note, did you know that Taiwan has one of the highest recycling rates in the world? And this was only achieved in recent years. Formerly, Taiwan was even called a garbage island. But this changed. So recently, thanks to very innovative technology and diverse policies, the recycling rate has been improved very significantly and is now one of the highest in the whole world. And then finally, there is also a post office inside the presidential office building. And you can send some buy some souvenirs and send some postcards there. And then when you turn around the corner, you see the address of the president's office located at Chongqing South Road, Section 1, number 122. And there is also a line, so you can add the line of the presidential office and receive their information. So this concludes our tour through the presidential office. And next time you pass by, remember that you too are welcome to take a look by yourself. And this concludes our course for today.